Chapter 42, Giga Strength, Umaro.
Celes!
Realm screamed.
Celes, wake up! Look out again!
Mog cried, and this time, everyone ducked as the ice dragon went screaming by, spitting out more sparkling ice balls, but this time, not striking anyone.
I can't reach it with my knife!
Mog cried, and Realm straightened her hat.
Nor can I with my paintbrush. But maybe we can hit it with magic!
Chere exclaimed, and closed her eyes, touching the pendant around her neck. A faint white aura began to surround her body, and in a flash of light, she was in her Esper form. Cupping her hands together, Chere began to chant, and red sparks began to fly from her fingers.
Firaga!
Chere released the spell right as the dragon flew overhead. The flames shot up from Cere's hands like a fiery geyser, shooting right through the dragon's stomach and melting a perfect hole through its body. The dragon screeched so loud that the returners had to cover their ears, and suddenly, the drifting snow and the wind had amassed into a blizzard.
Ifrit, please help us!
Realm cried, holding her piece of magicite that was around her neck. The stone began to glow red, and in a burst of flames, Ifrit appeared floating in the sky, and with a ferocious growl, dove out for the dragon. Snatching it by the tail with one of his huge, clawed hands, Ifrit ripped the dragon back towards him and leaned in, biting right down on the dragon's neck with his long fangs, steam coming out of the dragon as it screamed and tried to wriggle away. Taking her chance, Chere cast another Firaga spell, and then another, each one cutting a new hole through the dragon as Ifrit kept his hold on him. Mog, scrambling over to Celes's sword, took it into his hands and watched in amazement as a long, slender blue blade appeared. Leaping onto Realm's shoulder, and then Cere's as she cast her last spell, Mog clung to Cere's hair as she suddenly lifted from the ground and flew Mog towards the wriggling beast, where he took one clean cleave with Atma and cut the ice dragon's head right off. At that moment, the body burst into a collection of glittering snow and ice, the head exploding as soon as it made impact with the ground. Ifrit, a little surprised, suddenly disappeared in a burst of flames and smoke, his help no longer needed. Chere landed back safely onto the ground and Mog hopped down, where she proceeded to transform back into her normal self. The wind had died down, and the snow had stopped. Everything was completely silent.
That was scary!
Realm muttered, and Mog panted out.
Mog does not want to ever do that again, Kupo. But it was a brilliant plan!
Chere exclaimed.
I'm proud of you that you thought of it. Maybe Narsh will turn back to normal now.
Realm said thoughtfully.
But what do we do about Celes? She's still frozen.
The returners all looked over. Realm was right. Celes was still staring at them, and still very icy.
It's kinda suiting for the Ice Queen.
Mog giggled, and Chere crossed her arms over her chest.
Mog, it's not funny. What if she's not dead?
Realm suddenly said firmly, and held up her magicite stone.
Fire!
A little trail of flame ran around the ice statue, and disappeared in a trail of smoke.
Realm!
Chere cried.
Don't do that!
But suddenly, the ice began to crackle, and between the cracks, began to melt. Celes's eyes slowly blinked behind the ice, and when she started to move, the ice shattered around her, leaving her intact, with just some snow and ice chunks in her hair. Celes blinked, and looked around.
What happened? The ice dragon froze you,
Chere said. and then, in a lesser tone,
"But Realm managed to melt you. Where is that bastard?"
Celes growled, and grabbed Atma from Mog's hand. Mog let a squeal and backed away.
"We killed him, Celes, Kupo." "Oh."
Celes looked disappointed as she sheathed Atma.
"What a waste." "Ah ha ha ha."
Chere laughed nervously.
"Shall we travel onward, Celes? I'm sure you'll find plenty to slay. And meanwhile, you can tell us about this legendary dragon thing you were screaming about before."
So, as they continued to traverse the snowfields, Celes explained everything to Chere that the man in the Veld cave had told her. When she was finished, Chere pushed back her hair in thought.
"So, there's like an ultimate esper, supposedly named Crusader. That's very interesting,"
Chere said.
"Terribly fascinating. I guess there were quite a few espers that Kefka never got a hold of." "Yeah, I bought 2 at the Jador auction house."
Realm piped in.
"And Ozer bought 1. And Sabin said a thief was trying to sell on Intsen."
Celes said.
430 GP. "That disturbs me, a little,"
Chere said worriedly.
"Most people are not to be trusted." "Oh my gods!"
Realm suddenly shrieked, pointing ahead.
"What the hell is that?"
When the others looked up, they saw that they had been approaching the bridge on the cliffs of the mines. And still waiting there was the frozen esper, the one that had sent Chere into a fit and made her go flying across the sky. Chere gulped.
"Mog, why did you take us here?" "Well, I usually have to sneak behind it to get into the hole I made to visit Umaro,"
Mog said.
"But that thing has never glowed before, like it is now. We should go?"
Realm stuttered, and Chere shook her head.
"No. I think it wants to tell us something."
Chere led the others to the glowing ball of ice, and stared at the creature inside. She could just barely make out its sharp beak, and multi-colored wings. Suddenly, a loud screech filled the air, and the ice around him shattered, causing his wings to spread out into the air nearly 6 feet. The beast's clawed feet were still frozen in the ice, but it was crying loudly and flapping its wings, ice pieces and bolts of energy flying everywhere.
"Duck!"
Chere cried, and the team fell to the snowy ground. As Chere lied there, she silently transformed herself back into an esper, and then stood up again. However, the beast still continued his frenzied attacks, and Chere realized she was left with no choice.
Flare!
After the hardcore spell smashed into the beast, nearly burning off all his feathers and turning his beak black, he stopped flapping around and stared at Chere, and then turned his head to look at the others. Celes, Realm, and Mog finally stood up, and the beast ruffled his wings, new and beautiful feathers appearing like magic. He pulled his feet out of the now melted ice around his base end, and took a step towards the returners.
"Stop it!"
Chere demanded, and the beast stared at her.
"You humans freed me from that prison of ice."
A voice, deep and foreboding, rang out through the cliffs, even though the bird's beak hadn't moved an inch.
"Who are you?"
Chere asked, ignoring him, which Celes thought was a pretty ballsy thing to do. The bird tilted its head.
"Me? I am Tritalk, the Esper Master of Elements. I sense that you possess magicite. And that you young lady, possess much more. My father was Modern, the Esper.
Chere replied.
This form is my Esper side. I see.
Chere shivered.
I sense war, and destruction. Could that stupid war of the Magi lasted 1,000 years? I was frozen here in a chasm while it was raging on so long ago. No, it's not the same war, but it is similar.
Chere said.
But I can sense that you are trying to stop this madness.
Chere said.
But only time will deem you worthy of such a task. Remember that.
Before Chere could say any more, that was a brilliant flash of light, and Chere had disappeared. In his stead was a piece of magicite.
The Espers must sense that we are in grave danger for all of them to be giving themselves up for us.
Celes trailed off, as if she had read Cere's mind. Chere shivered, hugging the magicite to her chest.
We'll be fine. I know we will. Kefka will not remain in this world.
She looked at the others, who all solemnly nodded. She then kneeled down to Mog, who, granted, looked slightly freaked out.
I will fly us to the chamber in the mines that you climb into. But you must lead the way from there. Yes. Miss Esper.
Mog squealed, and tumbled over to the edge of the cliff.
I usually just slip in right here.
One at a time, Chere lifted Mog, Realm, and Celes into the hole, so that they didn't risk falling off the cliff like Mog did every time he went. After setting Celes down in the dark cave, Chere panted out, and undid her transformation.
Who? Celes, you're really heavy. It's muscle, okay? Get over it. This way.
Mog declared, and started bobbing forward, a glowing light suddenly appearing on the ball on his antenna.
Cool.
Realm cried, and tried to grab it.
Hands off.
Mog cried.
That is a body part, you know. Not a toy, Kupo.
The cave was fairly small, and after crossing a tiny drawbridge across a dark pond of water, the returners entered a bigger, more spacious cave. In this cave, the ceilings were high and nearly out of sight, torches of light were glowing on the walls. This provided plenty of light to see, and also to see the litter of bones covering the ground. Chere blinked.
What are all these bones? Umaro likes to make bone carvings.
Mog replied casually.
Like, weapons and stuff. Don't ask, don't tell, you know.
Chere didn't want to, but she looked around anyway, and decided that a lot of the skulls looked too human for her tastes. Ahead of them were a set of carved-out stairs, that led to yet another cavern, which was dark inside. Also by the stairs were two skulls posted up on sticks, and in one of them, the eye sockets were glimmering.
What's that?
Realm asked, going over to the skull and reaching in.
Realm, be careful!
Chere cried, but Realm yanked her hand out, and inside it was yet another piece of magicite. As Realm held it up for the others to see, the cave began to rumble and shake. A low growling could be heard, and pounding from the darker cave up the steps was something huge, furry, and white. As it came closer and closer, Chere could make out some sort of lumbering beast with a purple, hairy, muscle-packed stomach, long arms that went a little past his knees, and a face with a purple monkey-like snout and beady eyes, with more white hair flying everywhere. The beast went right up to Realm, reaching down, and grabbing her by the neck of her cape.
Ah!
Realm screamed, kicking and screaming and beating the thing with her tiny fists.
Get the hell off of me!
The beast merely growled and pitched Realm like a softball, sending her barreling into Chere. Chere moaned, stumbling backwards and staring up at the ceiling, with Realm flat on top of her.
I see stars. Umaro!
Mog snapped, and walked right up to the beast, jumping up and smacking him across the face.
Pay attention!
The beast called. Umaro blinked and made another growling noise, but this one was somehow softer and more curious. Celes was just staring, not quite knowing what to do. This was a Sasquatch?
I'm your boss, Kupo.
Mog barked, and Umaro stared at him dumbly.
And you're going to join us. Got that?
Umaro started to nod his head up and down, accompanied by jumping that shook the cave harder and nearly made Celes fall over on her own feet.
Oh. Me Umaro? You boss? Yes boss, Umaro join you.
Mog grinned, patting Umaro on the knee.
Now Umaro, no slouching now.
The Sasquatch then promptly stood up straighter, moving his shoulders back and unbuckling his knees. Chere and Realm slowly recovered, sitting up and rubbing their heads.
Umaro.
Chere repeated.
So? That's Umaro.
She looked mildly disturbed.
Umaro wait for you in big airship.
Umaro declared after Mog did some whispering in his ear. With that, Umaro pounded forward, marching out of the cave and nearly knocking Chere and Realm over again. When he was gone, the three girls looked at Mog, who shrugged.
He's a big boy. He can't help it sometimes. He is totally your responsibility.
Celes declared.
That is your baby, Mog, not ours. Understood.
Mog smiled cheerfully.
I'll especially remember that if we ever get in a fight, Celes.
Celes narrowed her eyes.
You'll remember more than that if we do ever fight.
With that, she swung her cape back, and started to march out after Umaro.
We'd better go and get back to the ship,
Chere said.
I bet Setzer is worried like mad that his three girls are missing. And everyone is gonna be happy to see Mog, Kupo.
Mog exclaimed, and Realm pushed her beret on more.
They're not gonna be happy to see what is coming with you. Well, I have faith in Umaro.
Chere smiled.
I'm sure everything will turn out just fine.
As Mog started to lead them out, and call for Celes, Chere let her smile fade and looked down at the ground. So, it was final. Arvis, Bannon, and all the other returners were dead. They were officially the last returners left. At first, the returners had been a faction merely to rebel against the Empire and its army. At first, Chere was wrapped up in the sheer romance of it all, a girl with no memories being asked by a dashing thief and king of the most powerful country in the world to join in their cause to bring the world justice and undo the wrongs that had been set against her. And yes, she was confused, and felt more alone than ever, but somehow, she knew what she was doing was the right thing. When it came to light that the Empire had actually been the direct cause of her parents' death, and of the way she was now, Chere vowed to fight with all her soul, with passion. But now, the Empire was gone, without a trace. And that, technically, should have meant that the returners should be gone as well. They got their way, there was no more Empire. But one of the returners had risen from the dust, and began a new crusade, to fight again, and to take on a new mission, Kefka. Now, the returners had become something more than just a little rebellion. Perhaps. Did Chere dare call the returners heroes? Chere knew that what they were doing now was right, she had no doubt about that at all. But she wasn't so sure if it truly was their destiny to overthrow the ruler of their new world. Tritok had said it himself.
But only time will deem you worthy of such a task. Remember that. Celes!
Mog suddenly exclaimed. Chere was shaken out of her thoughts. Celes was kneeling down, investigating a large hole that had been made in the wall of the cave.
I think Umaro broke through here,
she said.
From what I can see, there is a ledge here, and it leads right down into Narsh the city. It's a good thing you followed him, then.
Realm smiled.
Shortcuts are nice.
Mog and Realm first climbed through the hole, leaving Celes and Chere alone. Celes looked up at Chere. Chere returned the stare.
I know what you're thinking. We're the only ones left now, hey? Banon's great task has fallen upon our shoulders.
Chere nodded, and leaned back against the wall.
Something like that.
She looked back up to Celes.
Celes? Have you ever, doubted yourself? Doubted what you were doing here? Wondered if you were doing all this in vain?
Celes sighed, and looked away.
Have I doubted myself? Countless times. I doubted myself the moment I woke up from my coma.
Celes continued to stare down.
I saw what the world had become, and I grew sick inside. I realized that I might never see you guys again. After that, I climbed up a cliff ledge and threw myself off.
Chere gasped, and Celes felt her eyes water.
I don't remember the fall. I just remember waking up, to the smell of salt and the feeling of sand grinding into my cheek. I had fallen into the ocean, only to be washed back up to the same damned shore that I had woken up on. When I realized I had survived, I was furious. I started to scream and cry. And this bird was just staring at me. After I calmed down, I saw that it was wearing this around its neck.
Celes reached into her pocket and pulled out a rather sad-looking bandana. But Chere recognized it immediately.
That's Lox. He's alive. I know.
Celes put it away.
When I realized that someone was looking for me, I knew I couldn't just remain idle anymore. So, I found my way back to the mainland, and started looking for Locke. When I saw what Kefka had done to the world, and what he was still doing, I just knew. I knew it was up to us again. That's why I left to find the others. But
Chere trailed off.
What Tritok said? He didn't mean what you think he meant, I'm sure.
Celes offered.
I think he sensed it. That we hadn't become a whole team yet. As you know, one of us is still missing. And I believed the same thing as Tritok. I knew that I would not be ready to battle Kefka unless it was with all my friends. But where is Locke?
Chere cried.
Why? Why hasn't he found us yet? I don't know.
Celes said.
But I know we'll find him. Believe me. It's been one of the only things keeping me going sometimes. Thanks, Celes.
Chere smiled.
You have been such a wonderful leader. But I think it comes naturally, being a general and all. I'm not the leader anymore.
Celes smiled some.
You're back, remember? If it weren't for you, none of us would have ever met. You brought us together. You're the leader.
She reached at her belt, and unhooked Atma's hilt, handing it back to Chere.
Here. This is yours again.
Chere slowly took the hilt, and watched in amazement as the blade shot up, blazing and brighter than ever before.
Celes. Are you sure? There's another sword out there for me, somewhere.
Celes smiled.
Just take back what is rightfully yours. Girls!
Mog shouted from outside.
How long are you going to take, Kupo? We'd better go.
Celes smiled, and turned, getting down on her hands and knees and crawling through the hole. Chere stared at Atma for a few moments, the glow of the blade reflecting back in her emerald eyes. Suddenly, her radio started to crackle and sputter at her belt side again. Putting away Atma, Chere picked up the radio and turned it back on.
Chere here. Chere.
This time the voice was Edgar's.
What have you been doing? You've been ignoring the radio all this time. I've been busy.
Chere smiled.
But we're on our way back right now. And, we found Mog. Mog? Really? That's good. Just hurry back, okay? I miss you. I'm sure.
Chere chuckled, and all of a sudden, a scream broke out on Edgar's end, high-pitched and girly.
Oh my gods! There's something hairy and huge. It just got on the airship. Gao is hugging it. Gao, stay away from that thing. Eeeeee. Uh-oh.
Chere laughed, quickly clicking off her radio, and crawling outside in the hole, calling out to Celes and the others ahead of her.
Hurry, you guys! It looks like Umaro has just made his introductions on the Falcon.
43. Master of Simulacrum, Go-Go. Chapter End.